Not that that matters any. No. We are in 1 Kings chapter 12, believe it or not. We are moving right along. If you do not have the notes or the questions for 1 Kings 12, 1 through 15, raise your hands and we will get those to you. 1 Kings 12, 1 through 15. Raise your hands if you don't have those. 1 Kings 12, 1 through 15. John needs you to raise your hand. This goes to everybody. Everybody. This is the new one. There's two right there. Pass that one down. Thank you, sir. 1 Kings chapter 12, 1 through 15. Now we just keep going unless somebody really has a question about something. Most of it's pretty self-explanatory. I was going to start out with words. The stage has been set. Okay, the stage has been set. The person about whom we are about to study is a new king, is it not? Okay, a king by the name of Rehoboam, but he didn't set the stage for all of these things. Okay, who set the stage? I had it on. I don't know what the deal is. I know. I had to turn it off and back on again. We got a short or something. Well, I am short. I agree with that. I'm stinking proud of it. My mama was shorter than I was. If you knew, my mother was 5'2". Sometimes she liked to say and a half. And she had people on her side of the family that were, and I'm talking about men, they were about as short as she was. My mother was not a heavy lady. She took care of herself. But the men There's only one other time that I ever heard an ooh like that. I was in Eastland, Texas, and a big, tall, young man came down to be baptized. And first time I'd ever baptized anybody in that baptistry. It was my very first work. And I didn't get him far enough this way. And so when I baptized him, his head hit the back of the baptistry. And you heard it thump. And everybody goes, ooh. His old head hit. And he bent that neck, and I just shoved him on down, brought him right back up. I weren't going to stop and do it over. The good thing he lived through that. We don't want to question his baptism. I just put this one. Israel's request to Rehoboam. Israel's request to Rehoboam. And I have 3 points. Number 1, the request received. Number 2, the request reviewed. Number 3, the request rejected. Okay? So they come to him with this request, do they not? Once he's taken the kingdom. To which city did Rehoboam go? Shechem. And Rehoboam went to Shechem. Okay? Did anybody look up where Shechem or Shechem is on a map? Nobody did that, did you? No, because I didn't ask. I want you to listen to this. Shechem is the chief city of Ephraim. Got it? Of Ephraim. That's important. Okay? Sometimes we don't pay attention to any of the details, but you need to pay attention to that particular detail. Now, notice question number 2. Why were Israel and Rehoboam come to Shechem? For all Israel was come to Shechem to make him, who is him? Rehoboam king. I want you to stop a minute. Okay? Who was king before Rehoboam? Solomon. Who was king before Solomon? What city was chosen by God to put his name there as the capital city of Israel? Jerusalem. That's where the throne was. That's where the house of God was. That's where the Ark of the Covenant was. That's where the mercy seat is. And Rehoboam trots his little self off to where? To Shechem to be anointed king. Why? Why? Why did... Where do you hold royal services for the new monarch, folks? It ought to be in where? It ought to be the capital city of Jerusalem, had it not. Remember what I said a while ago? The stage had been set. True or false? Solomon had already tried to kill Jeroboam. True. Why did he try to kill him? Well, it's believed that he may have even tried to rise up against Solomon before Solomon's reign was even ended. So Solomon nipped that in the bud. And Rehoboam flees to what? He flees to Egypt. Rehoboam takes the throne. And he knows there's problems between the north and the south. He knows there's problems between Judah and the 10 tribes, does he not? So what do? You ever heard of this little word? Appease. A-P-P-E-A-S-E. So I think what I will do, now that I'm the king, rather than hold the coronation services here, I will go to the chief city of Ephraim. Folks, that's the largest of the 10 tribes of Israel. In fact, once the kingdom is split, many times Israel is referred to as Ephraim. Isn't that something? That's how large this tribe is. So I will go to Shechem. The temple has been there. The ark has been there in the past. And I'll just be coronated there, and that will help to soothe over some of these feelings, will it not? And maybe they'll accept me as the king, and everything will be just rosy. Or whatever you want to say. Wow. Who heard about the making of Rehoboam king? And it came to pass when Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, heard of it. Wow. He heard of it, didn't he? Where was he when he heard of it? Yes, he was in the land of Egypt. We've just talked about that, did we not? He had fled there because of Solomon, and Solomon had sought to kill him during his reign because he either rose up against Solomon or Solomon had learned of the prophecy of Ahijah, hadn't he? And he was fearful of that prophecy and sought to try to end that. Who sent and called for Jeroboam? Notice what the text says. That they sent and called him, and now listen, and Jeroboam and all the congregation of Israel came and spake unto Rehoboam, saying, folks, it was the Israel. I wonder how well the prophecy of Ahijah was known, don't you? What did Ahijah say? Does anybody remember? Yeah, he had told Jeroboam, he said, Jeroboam, 10 tribes are going to be yours, and there's going to be one left to Solomon. But it's not going to happen until when? After Solomon is gone. Well, Solomon is gone. Israel knows the prophecy, so they immediately contact who? Jeroboam to come back. Man, have you ever heard of such a thing as good riddance? Don't you know Solomon felt that way when Jeroboam finally went to Egypt? Good riddance. Let that guy, just let him live in Egypt. Well, guess what? He's back. Okay? And sometimes that happens in congregations, doesn't it? Okay? Somebody comes, you go, oh, they're back. Oh, man. But it appears that Israel called him back. Now, I'm going to read this note to you, okay? We now watch as the providence of God is set in motion. There will be no miracles that cause the division of the kingdom. The free will of both Rehoboam and Israel will not be violated in any way to put Jeroboam on the throne. Yet God's word through His prophet will come to pass. I make this statement all the time, and I believe it's the truth. I believe the most powerful power God has is His providence. Okay? I realize God has the power of miracles, doesn't He? And that's an unbelievable power, to be able to stop the sun and the moon in the rotation, to be able to raise people from the dead, to be able to turn water into wine, to be able to heal individual sickness, to be able to cast out demons. That's unbelievable power. But I believe God's providential power is even greater. Okay? Because two things. He doesn't use miracles, and He never violates man's free will to bring whatever He needs to bring to pass. And it blows my mind. Okay? The kingdom is going to be divided, isn't it? It's been prophesied. It's been foretold. But God isn't going to force it by Himself. He's going to allow circumstances and situations to develop, and His will come to pass. Does anybody remember a man by the name of Mordecai? I hope you do. Okay, if you participated in Bible Bowl one time, okay, who was Mordecai? Okay, no, that was Haman. Haman made the gallows. Okay, Mordecai is the uncle of Esther, who is the queen of Persia, right? And remember, Haman wanted to kill the Jews, right? And so Mordecai tells Esther, Esther, you need to go in and talk to the king, because if you don't, you will be killed. But here's what he said. Deliverance shall arise to the Jews from what? From another place. Isn't that interesting? And the point that I'm making is he believed in the providence of God, didn't he? Esther, God's put you here for a reason. You're come to the kingdom for such a time as this. But if you choose, see, God's not going to take away your free will. If you choose not to do this, God will still what? Redeem His people from another place. That just blows my mind. That God can work His providence and never violate our free will, never inject Himself forcefully, miraculously into the process, and yet His will always what? Comes to pass, doesn't it? Go back and study the fall of the city of Jerusalem. Okay? Jesus had predicted it during His ministry, didn't He? How did that happen? Okay? God didn't come down and cause the fall of the city of Jerusalem, but it happened, didn't it? Where were Mary and Joseph from? What city? They were from Nazareth. Where's Nazareth? It's in Galilee, isn't it? But the prophets said that the baby Jesus would be born where? Bethlehem. Now the problem we got is this. How are you going to get a 9-month pregnant woman from Nazareth to Bethlehem? Right? How are you going to do that? Well, Joseph told us, I'm going to load her on a donkey and I'm going to take her to Bethlehem. But why? Caesar declared a taxation of the people. And you had to travel where to pay your taxes? You had to travel to the city of your lineage birth. And that's where Joseph and Mary were from. Their lineage was from the city of Bethlehem. And it just so happened that once she got there, she just had a little baby. Didn't it? I mean, it just so happened she couldn't have it on the road to Jerusalem. Oh no, can't do that. Can't have it in Nazareth before you leave. Oh no. Can't wait to get back to Nazareth. Got to have it where? In Bethlehem, when all the hotels are full, and here we are in a stinking manger. You know it? But that's God's will, isn't it? He didn't force anything, but His will came to pass. And it just blows my mind. And right now, the kingdom's about to divide, and it's God's will that's going to come to pass, but He's not going to make it happen from a forceful situation. I just think it's interesting. How did Israel describe the yoke that Solomon put on them? Grievous, yes. Thy father made our yoke grievous. Now therefore, make thou the grievous service of thy father, and this heavy yoke which he put on us. Really, he described it in two ways, didn't he? Grievous and heavy. Anybody look up the word grievous? I'm going to have to start putting them back into questions. Okay. The little word grievous means tough, severe, hard, harsh, difficult, to make burdensome, to be hard-pressed. Listen to this. It can involve ill treatment. Okay? It can involve ill treatment. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, it was constant, you know. Both the taxation from the standpoint of money and the goods, you know, the funding that was needed, and the labor force that was needed to be out there working and stuff, okay? And that word heavy yoke means almost the same thing. Brown, Driver, and Briggs says that the very last definition is this: very oppressive. Very oppressive. So it may have been that some of the men in Solomon's workforce were harsh, cruel taskmasters that may have ill-treated some of the Jews in that building process. Would it surprise you? Wouldn't surprise me. Not one iota. Now listen to this, because this is things you have to remember. When you go section by section, you forget the previous section sometime, right? Jeroboam's position as superintendent of the forced labors of the tribe of Ephraim, revealed to him the large amount of satisfaction which Solomon's system had produced. And his contemplated rebellion in Solomon's reign may have been connected with his standing grievance. Remember, there was the building of Milo, was there not? And in the building of Milo, Solomon went there, and who did he see? Jeroboam. And he was a young man. He was an industrious man. He was a man of valor. And what did he do? He elevated him to a position of authority over Ephraim and Manasseh. Think about that. He is part of the supervision of Solomon's workforce, isn't he? So every day he's out there among the people. Every day he's out there watching. And every day he's getting the grievances and the anger of the people who are working under Solomon's system. And apparently it wasn't very good at times. So Jeroboam would have known that, wouldn't he? Okay? He would have known that. What did they promise Rehoboam if he made the yoke lighter? Yes. Make thou the grievous service of thy father, and his heavy yoke which he put on us lighter, and we will what? We will serve thee. Man. Folks, that's an ultimatum being placed upon a who? On a king. You know, servants aren't the one who are in charge, are they? Not supposed to be. If the king, it is the king who directs the affairs of the nation. The citizens of the kingdom are simply to obey, aren't they? Now think about this. They did not rebel in the days of Solomon. Isn't that something? With leadership changes, there is always headache. With leadership changes, there are always struggles. Always. Okay? Very seldom is there just what they like to refer to as smooth transition. Are you kidding me? You know? The very minute somebody dies, we've created a what? We've created a hurricane, haven't we? You know, and it takes some time to work through this. And people find that there's advantages that can be taken in the course of leadership changes, right? And that's what Israel's doing, Dutch.
It seems, too, that the Israelites have always been a grumblers. During the time of Moses, when he got them out of Egypt, they were cool. Until they had some bad lots, and then they said, man, we're starving here. When we were in Egypt, we had nothing that we needed. Man, we were eating watermelons, we had steak and eggs, and we were just enjoying life. Now look at us here. We don't got nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Then God gives them stuff, and they complain about the great stuff that they got. So now here we are. Solomon does what God directs. He needs the money. He taxes people, not because he was mean, but he needed that. They didn't complain because they knew what Solomon was doing. But he's gone, so okay, we forget what was glory. Let's complain because we want. We want. All the stuff that we got, we forget why we got it.
How many of you in,
Passing it out.
how many of you in here complain about the taxes you have to pay? Bunch of stinking Israelites. Y'all just a bunch of grumblers. Okay? You know, I guess my point is, the Jews are a complaining people. There is no doubt about it. You can't make them happy. Okay? And if you go back and you study the history of Israel, you'll see this division between Israel and Judah happens a long time ago. Okay? Remember when David's reign first started? He only reigned the first 7 years over Judah. It was 7 years before he actually had Israel come on board with him. So we already see some friction and some tension in the people, right? And but it may be that they had a little bit of legitimate complaint, right? I mean, they're saying, man, he's been grievous. His yoke's been heavy. It's been hard, right? And, one of these days maybe we'll get to ask somebody, won't we? Was the complaint legitimate? How much time did Rehoboam request before Israel was to turn to hear the king's decision? 3 days. 3 days. I don't know why, but 3 days. Maybe half a day journey, half a day back. 1 day to talk to the old, 1 day to talk to the young. I don't know. I'm just guessing. With whom did Rehoboam counsel first? The old men. Yes, the old men. And the king Rehoboam consulted with the old men that stood before Solomon his father while he yet lived. Man. True or false? Solomon put a lot of credence in counselors. True or false? That's true. We read about it several times in Proverbs. Here's Proverbs 11:14. Where no counsel is, the people fail. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Nothing wrong with seeking counsel, is there? Nothing wrong whatsoever. What question did Rehoboam ask the old men? Yes, how do you advise that I may answer this people? Good question. Good question, right? If you'll lower the burdens, if you'll make our yoke easier, what did they promise? We will serve you. Now, they didn't put the comma but the comma but was insinuated, was it not? But if you don't, right? The old men. I just wrote this. Remember, the old men had been around, hadn't they? They knew the underlying tensions that had developed between the tribe of Ephraim and the tribe of Judah, didn't they? They knew, They knew exactly. If they had been reigning if they'd been with Solomon in his reign, they knew everything about the kingdom, did they not? They'd have a good feel, a good pulse on what's going on. And so he asked them the question, what advice did they give? They tell him 3 things, okay? And they spake unto him, saying, if thou wilt be a servant unto the people. Isn't that something? Solomon was being served, wasn't he? So they change it and they say, hey, quit being served by the people and become what? Become a servant to the people. Good start, right? We always talk about servant leadership. Is that the kind of leadership Jesus manifested? Yeah, that's the kind of leadership he did. And then he says this, and wilt serve them. That's the second point. And answer them and speak good words to them. Man, be a servant, serve their needs, and speak good words to them. And they will serve you forever. Man. A lesson. Most people are willing to serve a leader if he proves himself. Isn't that true? If he proves himself. If he proves himself to be a servant to the people and addresses their issue with good words, that is, words that address the issues of their life. It's not enough to make promises. We have to fulfill those promises, don't we? If Rehoboam would be a servant to the people and speak good words, what did the old men say Israel would do? I love it. And they will be thy servants forever. Man, I don't know about you. If I were a king, that's what I would want. Wouldn't you? I would want my people to serve me forever, as long as I'm king. The citizens of a nation understand the need for those in positions of power, don't we? Guys, there's got to be leadership. There has to be a hierarchical structure of power in any organization. That's not the problem, is it? If he is more concerned, if they feel heard and if their needs are addressed, they will follow that leader even if he's not perfect. Won't they? Absolutely. And it doesn't matter what organization it's in. Okay? It doesn't matter whether it's a nation, whether it's a family, whether it's a business. It doesn't matter. Even a coach, right? He can not be the best coach, but if he is kind, if he serves them, if he takes time with them, they will serve him forever, even if they're losing all the time. You know it? Because they love the coach. But he blanked the counsel of the old men which they had given him. They forsook the counsel. To give the people what they need, you ready for this? A leader oftentimes has to forsake his own needs and concerns. That's not easy to do, is it? No. Many times the leader is not willing to do this. He is more concerned about his power, his wealth, his prestige than the welfare of his citizens. That's where Rehoboam is right now. Sad, isn't it? Sad. What was the second group of men with whom he took counsel? The young men, yes, and consulted with the young men that were grown up with him and which stood before him. Well, there's an interesting statement in there. Well, there's three things that are interesting about these men. Number one, they were young. Number two, they had grown up with him. These are my beasties. Right? Or my besties, whatever you want to call them. And now I've done what? I've elevated them to positions of power in my kingdom. Right? Man, unbelievable. The young men, many times they have less knowledge, less experience, less wisdom than the older men. These men grew up with Solomon. They were his friends. Now listen to this next point. Folks, sometimes friends do not have the skills necessary to be in various positions of power into which they are put out of sheer favor. Right? And isn't that what happens a lot of times? Somebody gets promoted to a position of power, and the first thing they do is they put their family and friends in all these top-notch positions, and they don't have a clue what they're doing. Okay? That's sad, isn't it? And that's what old Rehoboam had done. What question did Rehoboam pose to the young men? Yes. And he said unto them, What counsel give ye, that we may answer this people who have spoken to me, saying, Make the yoke which thy father did put upon us lighter. Man. I wrote this point on my second when it says this. It is interesting that the last words of Israel's request are not included in the question. Okay? Notice how the question is, Who have spoken unto us, saying, Make the yoke which thy father did put upon us lighter. That wasn't the totality of the statement. What if he had told the young men, and make his yoke lighter, and we will serve thee forever? But see, he didn't put that on there. Look at these old Israelites. Problems. They just problems all the time. Right? Yeah. Well, of the old man, he just asked them what? How should I answer? Just how should I answer this? And but it's interesting, they end it with what? And they will serve thee forever, don't they? But that thought's not even in this right here. Sometimes we only think about one aspect of a situation rather than looking at the full picture, don't we? They heard the words, make our yoke lighter. Everybody wants things easier, right? But they weren't reminded of the words, and we will serve thee. And they didn't even think about it. Their decision would force Israel to make a decision. Isn't that what they had said? Or at least that's what they had implied, didn't they? The decision would have a major impact on the power and wealth of these present leaders, wouldn't it? I want you to think about that. You can have one tribe and rule over it, and you can get all of its money and all of its labor force. Or you can have all of us, all 12 of us, if you'll just what? Lighten the load a little bit, right? Now, which is more reasonable? You know, these guys are about to take a major hit on their salary, aren't they? And they don't even think about it. What words did the young men counsel Rehoboam to speak to the nation of Israel? Ah, man. Thus shalt thou speak unto the people that spake unto thee, saying, Thy father made our yoke heavy, but make it lighter unto us. Thus shalt thou say unto them, My little finger shall be thicker than my father's loins. Man. Any of you got thighs? Okay. You don't have to show them to us. I just ask if you had them. Okay. And I don't know about you. My thigh is a whole lot thicker than my little finger. And what do they tell them? Nah. What we're about to do to you is going to be worse than my father ever put upon you. Glenn? Clark says this, As much as the thigh surpasses the little finger in thickness, so much does my power exceed that of my Father. And the use that I shall make of it to employ and tax you shall be in proportion. You think that was bad? Just wait. Wow. They also said this, Whereas my Father did lade you with a heavy yoke, I will add to your what? I will add to your yoke. Now look at verse 19. My Father has chastened you with whips, but I will chasten you with scorpions. Anybody do any study on the word scorpions? Okay, you need to do some study on scorpions. Russell? Yeah, he totally rejects anything that they've said, doesn't he? There's three ways this word scorpion is thought about. Okay, literal scorpions. Okay, it's one thing to be, tagged by a whip, and it's another thing to be bitten by a scorpion. Folks, sometimes a scorpion sting lasts a while. Secondly, there was also a whip that was referred to as the scorpion. Okay? And he may have been saying, look, my dad just used a minor whip on you. The scorpion had metal and stones and other things on the end of that whip. So if they popped you, you're going to take an even bigger beating of that whip. Okay, so that was a second way that it could be looked at, and those are the two that are primarily thought of. Hal? Yeah, yep. It would be a severe beating, and that's what some believe that it means. That third way, my father just popped you with a whip. I'm not just going to pop you with a whip. I'm going to scourge you with a whip. Okay, so very, very scary. True or false? The people failed to show up to Rehoboam on the third day. False. And how did the king answer them? Roughly. Nobody looked up the word roughly, did you? You're supposed to. Okay. Severe, harsh, cruel, obstinate. Somebody turn to Proverbs 25:23 and read it for me. Trying to hurry through this, guys. Proverbs 25:23. That's hear that? So doth what? An angry countenance, a backbiting tongue. How did Rehoboam answer them? Roughly. I'm in charge. I'm the king here. You guys need to go back and take your position as my servants. What did he hope? Sometimes we think mean, rude statements will intimidate individuals and cause them to back off, don't we? You ever raise your voice to your kid? Mm-hmm. You let them know real quick who's in charge, didn't you? Wives never do that to their husbands. We won't go the other way. I'm just kidding. But don't we do, don't we? I found it interesting that the Bible talked about. Rehoboam answered the people as the young men counseled him. True. The king hearkened unto the people. True or false? False. Wherefore the king hearkened not unto the people, did he? Now the reason for it is what? For the blank was of the Lord. The what? The cause was of the Lord. That little word cause. Anybody study that one? No. I just filled in the blank. Here's the deal. Was God causing the division? Okay, or was He causing the revolution? See? The cause. Okay? For the cause, the revolution was from the Lord. Okay? It wasn't the Lord's desire to divide the kingdom, but He was going to what? Seek to revolutionize the kingdom, because Solomon had taken it where? Solomon had taken it into idolatry, had he not? And as far as we know, Rehoboam hadn't done one thing about it upon taking the throne. The idolatry was still there and still being practiced in the nation of Israel. Who had made this known in time past? Ahijah, the prophet of God, right? So very, very interesting. God's hand is in all of this, is it not? Very, very interesting. Questions, comments, anybody? No? It's about to get even gooder. But your mind is going to have to expand, because we got two kingdoms about to crank it up, and it's going to get harder. Okay? I promise you.